How's it going, everyone? It's Pat, your friendly internet wordsmith, and last week we talked all about how to write female characters. So this week, it's all about the broskies. But before we get into it, I have a little bit of an announcement to make. For a little over 2 years now, I have been working on my current work in progress, which is an adult science fantasy novel titled The Blighted Flame. Now, I'm currently on draft 6, working on finishing that up, and that will be the last step before I, hire a copy editor to, go and do their thing. And at which point, I get that back, and then I'll tune it up into draft 7 before sending it off to a proofreader. And then, once I get that draft date, we're good for publishing. Assuming everything goes according to plan, I should be self-publishing my book sometime in the fall. Of course, being this early out, I can't nail down a hard date yet, but I'm shooting for this fall 2021. I'm sure you can imagine, I'm very excited about this. So you can expect to hear more about my project in the coming months as we get closer and closer to, that release date. But that's enough of that for now. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Personally, I feel like writing male characters is a little bit easier than writing their female counterparts. I just feel like they're a little bit simpler, more straightforward. So with that being said, you might be wondering, well, what's the point of making this video then? Well, you see, there are quite a few pitfalls that are pretty easy to fall into when it comes to writing male characters. But don't you worry. I have that super spicy advice that will get you writing male characters with just the premium gusto. So without further ado, let me break into the tips, starting with number 1, and that is, don't be afraid to make your male characters vulnerable. We all know the stereotype. Men are big, burly beasts who take ass and kick names, and they only come close to crying when, they run out of cans of whoop ass to crack open. And even then, they knuckle down, dig deep, and just put the knuckles to the grindstone and power through the shit, because, emotions are for women and the weak. You know the stereotype. Yeah, not only is that toxic as fuck, it is also unrealistic. And I promise you, and this is coming from a 6'4", what you would consider a man of men, whatever. Yeah, I promise you that even if they're buried down deep in the very pit of their soul, men have emotions too. It's okay, and it is okay to express those things. Of course, there's nothing wrong with writing, kind of like the gruff kind of character who is super guarded with their feelings, opening up just doesn't really come natural to them. There's nothing wrong with writing that kind of character. What I'm saying is there's a line and a difference between writing that character who has that, those walls up, and writing the toxic masculine kind of character who's flashing their muscles all the time and calling everybody bitches for being just a tad bit sensitive. So basically, you want to know where that line is and stay away from it. And also, don't knock writing a male character that is not afraid to be vulnerable. I'm willing to bet that your readers will appreciate the fresh breath of air. Tip number 2, just because the guy's a dude doesn't mean he needs to be a dick. So this tip kind of piggybacks off the last one a little bit, but in a more broader sense. So there's another stereotype out there that a lot of guys are just inconsiderate assholes who, always have to have the last word. They're know-it-alls. They always got to show that they're top banana in the room or some other stupid shit. Or perhaps this is the kind of guy who always has a snarky remark to say, and he thinks he's being funny or coy or just sarcastic, but he's really being offensive and insensitive. And when you try to call him out on it, it's never his problem. It's always, well, you're just being too sensitive. That kind of guy. Yeah, allow me to be the one to break it to you. That's not being a man or acting like a guy or whatever label you want to put on it. It's called being a dick, and it's really annoying. Unless you're writing a male character who is the antagonist or the villain, or some character the reader is supposed to dislike, don't write your male characters with these personality traits. Don't do it. On to tip number 3. Romance is not a necessity. So I want to start out by saying that I love a good romantic subplot in fiction. When I'm reading a book and the main character is embarking on their quest and they need to save the world from, I don't know, a zombie dragon wizard. Whatever, doesn't fucking matter. But they're embarking on their quest and they got this big responsibility they need to navigate. And along the way, they end up falling in love, and they have to also navigate those feelings in their heart while also having to save the world. I fucking love that shit. It is golden. It is Gucci. However, this is not a necessity, and I cannot stress this enough. If you do not do this right, you will ruin the entire story. I cannot stress this enough. You can write the best main plot. The magic system can be fun and inventive and something we've never seen before. And all of this good, it can be magnificent. But when you get to that romantic subplot and it just isn't done right, and it's just obvious it's there just for the main character to you done fucked up. What comes to mind are the old school James Bond movies. And if you're familiar with these films, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Now, there are 3 things I can guarantee you will happen in these movies. James Bond will stop a terrorist plot. There will be a fine-ass woman whose name is most likely a sex pun. And she most definitely will be giving old Jimmy some ass. Just saying. Guaranteed. Frankly, I wouldn't even call this romance, but what I want to stress here is that just because you're writing a male character doesn't mean you have to also write another character for the sole purpose of them to play off romantically. Your male character can go through a quest, save the world, do all their whole adventure without getting their dick wet. Tip number 4, be careful that you don't drift too far out of reality. So originally I was going to cater this more towards male writers, but as I was writing the script, I realized that nah, you female writers, you're guilty of this too. You know, you got to come on in here. You see, writing is an expression of our realities. I can't tell you how many times I've written something and, you know, my wife will read it and she'll be like, oh, I see you were inspired by, you know, this. And I'd be like, the fuck are you talking about? That has nothing to do with this. And, you know, I'll go back and reread my work and look at it and I'll be like, God damn, my life has crept its way into the page. That is dope and awesome. And it makes for incredible storytelling. You know, when we can draw on our own life, even consciously or unconsciously. That is fucking dope. But on the other side of the spectrum, writing is also an expression of our imagination. At a bare minimum, when you're writing fiction, you're creating people, if not creating entire countries or societies or worlds or even universes. With that being said, it's very tempting to write things the way we wish they were, or write ourselves the way we wish we were. And in itself, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, after all, there's nothing wrong with writing a character who is as brave as you wish you were, or as smart as you wish you were, or insert any description. The problem arrives when you're trying to write Chad Thundercock, who has rock hard abs and can slay dragons with the flick of his wrist and can finesse panties off all of the women at the pub with just a wink and a smile. Yeah. And, you know, as I said before at the beginning of this tip, you women are guilty of this too. Don't try to deny it. I know you've written some Chad Thundercocks. Of course, you want to write men who are appealing, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. However, you need to also remember that you're trying to write a male character and not a unicorn with a 13-inch. And for my last tip, you need to remember that men are not objects. This is something you often hear in reference to women, and it's terrible and it sucks, and women far too often are objectified, devalued, and dehumanized, and it needs to end. The sooner it ends, the better. Now, I want to be perfectly clear in my message here and say that I'm not trying to detract from that or make light of that in any way. The struggles that women face are struggles they deal with on a daily basis, and it's terrible. And every step we take towards eliminating those social barriers holding women back is another victorious step that we are making towards a better future and brighter tomorrow. That being said, men face many of the same objectifications, and unfortunately, when they are objectified, it doesn't get acknowledged, and sometimes it's even justified. Please, for the love of God, do not fall into this trap. Men are more than just hunks of meat or tools of war or bodies to be utilized. Contrary to what media has led us to believe throughout all of its existence, men are people with their own, thoughts, feelings, ideas, fears and insecurities, and dreams and nightmares. When writing male characters, remember that they are not objects, and they're not just there to be fawned over or used or whatever. Your male characters deserve to be seen as complex and dynamic and all that good stuff. And the first step to them being seen in that way is you to write them that way. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Also, as a reminder, my giveaway contest for the $50 Amazon gift card is still going on. No one's won that yet. Everything you need to know to win that contest is located in the description below, so check that out, as well as all the hints you guys have unlocked thus far. But yep, we'll catch you guys in the next video.
Thanks for kicking it with us. If you had a good time, go ahead and slap that like button. And if you're new, consider subscribing, because we do this every week. Of course, you're going to want to hit that bell too so you never miss an upload. Have an awesome day, achieve something great, and we'll catch you later.